Well, good morning, and you're welcome to the fourth instalment of the Barnardos Plugged In Switched Off webinar series. I'm going to be hosting today. I'm Anton Savage. Pleasure to be back with you. Over the past couple of years, we've covered a wide range of topics, including things like cyberbullying and online gaming. We're coming to you live from the Google headquarters in Dublin today, and it's with thanks to google.org's support that we are able to do all of this. Today we are going to focus on artificial intelligence, looking at the views of children, young people, teachers and experts in the area, looking at potential opportunities and of course the potential risks of AI. We have 90 minutes as we usually do, and we have a lot to get through in that 90 minutes. So I'll give you a bit of a sense of what's coming up in the agenda. First off, we're going to be hearing from Suzanne Connolly, who is CEO of Barnardos, and she's going to be talking with Niamh McLaughlin, who is coordinator of the Online Safety Programme with Barnardos. And they're going to talk about what they've been hearing from children about AI in their workshops, in schools, and of course the release of their consultation report today. Next up, then, we're going to hear from Dr. Susan Levy, and she's an assistant professor in the School of Information and Communication Studies in UCD. She's one of the leading experts in the country on AI, and she's currently looking at projects to mitigate bias and discrimination in AI, as well as developing a platform to evaluate the social impact of recommender algorithms. Susan's a member of the Irish Government's AI Advisory Council. She's Irish delegate at the Global Partnership on AI in the Responsible AI Working Group, and she's going to give us an overview on AI ethics and trustworthy AI. To use a colloquialism, she didn't lick it off the rocks. So she is going to be one of our expert speakers. We're also going to be hearing from Daniel and Sharia, two secondary school students who are members of the WebWise Youth Advisory panel. And they're users of AI themselves, and they're going to be giving us a bit of an insight into how it applies in their lives and in school, and what they see as the benefits and their concerns. Then another industry expert, again a leading one, because we're going to be joined by Ryan Mead, who is Public Policy and Government Affairs Manager with Google Ireland. He's going to talk to us about what he and Google see as the future of artificial intelligence and the opportunities for children and young people, and Google's new AI product, Gemini, and what they've done to mitigate the dangers that may be implicit in AI and to ensure that children are not impacted negatively. Next then, schools. We will have Bobby Kenny with us, who is a principal in a school in Wexford, and we're going to have Patrick Hickey, who is both a teacher and a teacher trainer in a school in Cork. They have a lot to say about AI from an educational perspective, and they're going to be giving us an insight into how it applies in the lives of teachers and in the school system. Then we have Anthony Kilcoyne. He's Divisional Director for Digital Technologies at IDGE. This is the Department of Education funded service for teachers and school leaders throughout Ireland, and he's going to be taking us through AI for schools resources, which are coming up on the IDGE website, because obviously AI is going to become the norm in a lot of what happens in schools. And then finally, were that all not enough, we're going to have a panel discussion to reflect on everything that has been talked about, and that we will have heard from our experts and our young people. We'd love you to interact. So if you do want to interact, you can email onlinesafety@barnardos.ie, and obviously that email address remains current after the session. So if there's anything that occurs afterwards, you can send it in to onlinesafety@barnardos.ie. But you can also comment on the YouTube channel, and we'll try to incorporate any feedback that we get or questions that we get as we go through. If, by the way, you are hard of hearing, you can click on the CC button on YouTube, and you'll get subtitles as we go through. Final thing before we get proceedings officially underway. Throughout the session, we're going to be showing you some quotes and artwork from children and young people from 5th class in primary through to 3rd year in secondary. They participated in a recent focus group conducted by the Barnardos Online Safety team. And it's part of the consultation report. That's what the focus group was. But they were asked to look at a sort of a selection of answers and a selection of artwork relating to AI and what they see to be good about AI and what they would have as concerns about AI. So we'll stitch them through as we go. All right, that's the agenda that is ahead of us. To get us formally underway and started, I'm going to welcome in Niamh McLaughlin, who is Online Safety Programme Coordinator with Barnardos, and of course the Chief Executive of Barnardos, Suzanne Connolly. Suzanne.
Thanks very much, Anton. It's absolutely fantastic to be here today. And it's a fabulous location, and we're all so looking forward to the morning and to the webinar. So in Barnardos, as you know, Niamh, we've been really lucky to have the support of google.org since 2019. And over 90,000 children have benefited from our online safety workshops. And I know we've also worked in schools and we've engaged with parents. Yeah. So maybe just to give our listeners just a bit of a sense of the programme to date and what are some of the plans for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We're delighted with the support from google.org since 2019. And since that time, we have worked with over 800 schools around Ireland and their wider school communities, the teachers and the parents. And as you say, we have delivered our online safety workshops in schools to over 90,000 children. So it's been a great success. And moving forward into the next phase of the programme, we are delighted to be piloting our programme now in secondary schools and also youth and community groups. And that gives us the opportunity to explore topics of online safety in a little bit more detail. And then what's really exciting is we are putting our programme onto a digital platform. So we will have a digital version of the online safety programme, and that will be available potentially to any school in Ireland whenever they need it. So we're really excited about that.
Yes, it's really fabulous. And one of the things I think would be interesting just to talk a little bit about is why we're focusing on AI and maybe define a bit about what AI is.
Yeah. So AI is such a big topic at the moment. We're hearing about it all the time. People are increasingly talking about it and increasingly using it, and that's the same for children. So we just heard more and more from children asking questions about AI, talking about AI in our workshops in schools, and that's the reason why we have chosen it for the theme of this year, for this webinar, and also for our consultation report. And what we mean by AI, when we say AI, we are talking about, the large language models of generative AI. That's things like ChatGPT, nobody can say that correctly, and also Google Gemini, things like that. And children are increasingly using those large language models. But we're also talking about the technology behind things like, virtual voice assistants like Siri and Alexa, and also, personalized social media feeds, and like the algorithms behind like online gaming and the things that children are already using online, things that children are already experiencing online. So sometimes adults might not realise just how embedded AI is into children's online experiences and how they're navigating that daily as it is.
Yeah, I guess it's embedded in all our lives.
Yeah.
Because we're all online users.
Exactly.
And I thought it would be useful now to maybe talk a little bit about the report, which I know is available on our website. And I think it's fascinating reading, but you could argue I would say that, wouldn't I? But I do think it's really interesting. But maybe say a little bit about what children said to us about the advantages and disadvantages, or their worries and concerns and their excitement.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. So our report is available today. So it's available from our website. It's released today, and it's called Exploring AI with Children and Young People. So the process for that consultation, we engaged with over 500 children in surveys and focus groups. We also talked with some teachers and some parents, and it was just about children's current usage of AI, their perceptions, their understanding of it. What children told us, there was a broad range of experiences and views on AI. Many told us like they felt very positive about it and they're using it in very positive ways. So children told us how they're using it as part of their creative process, as they're using it, to help them with their learning, to help them with their homework, to help them understand the world around them. And they also shared their concerns. So their concerns, they're concerned about security, they're concerned about their privacy, they're concerned about misinformation. They're aware that there's the potential for them to be manipulated online, and especially because AI can really blur the lines between what's real and what's fake. So it is very interesting to hear what they have to say.
And listening to you, it sounds like the children have a lot of insight. And, so what were they hoping for from adults in their lives in terms of AI, in terms of what sort of support they might need?
Yeah, well, I think if we were to give any advice to say parents about this, is just to engage with your children on it, to get involved in their online activities, show interest, find out what they're doing, how they're using AI. Everybody that we talked to, had a bit of like a lack of confidence around AI, and we heard again and again people saying, I just don't know enough about it yet. So just get in there and get part of the journey, like be part of your child's journey in AI, learn as much as you can, I suppose, and then just try and have those conversations so that when your child is facing something online, they feel comfortable to come and talk to you about it.
Yeah, and I suppose it's ever evolving, isn't it?
Yeah.
In its uses, yeah. And I think just reading the report, myself, I just felt it's beholden all of us as adults to really make sure that we're informed,
Yeah.
so that we can have really, positive and creative, conversations with children in whatever opportunities there might be to have those. So it could be even watching something on TV, or it could be something a child might read. So that we're very much engaged in their world, and that we're engaging both positively in all its potential, and then maybe as we giving children an opportunity, to talk about some of their concerns. So yeah,
that's it, exactly. And having conversations about what's real and what's not real, and the difference between AI responses and human emotions, and the difference between what the consequences of sharing something that's not real, and also having boundaries around their own personal information, and not sharing personal information with AI, that kind of thing. So just keeping those conversations going.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking of E.T., sorry. E.T. all those years ago. Anyway, that's just a bit of a diversion. But I just think to even bring that, it's also to bring a sense of fun as well, I think, to this. Because sometimes, not always just engaging in some of the scaremongering around it.
Oh, of course, yeah. And that's what some of the children told us. Like, they just have fun with it. They use it for entertainment. I think entertainment was one of the main, in our consultation, that was one of the main things that came out. They really just, it's fun. It's fun to use, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe then just to think about, I mean, we've been in this area again, thanks to the support of Google.org, we've been able to reach, so many children and in quite a few schools. But if there's any parents or schools who'd like to know more about what we provide, I mean, how might they get access to some of the resources?
So we have resources on our website for teachers, and we can go on our website. You can read our reports and past sessions of this webinar. We can watch them back. And also our email address is onlinesafety@barnardos.ie. So any parents or any schools can get in contact with us to book workshops, or just to ask questions, or to avail of any of the resources that we have.
Great. It's been great chatting to you, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the session.
Yeah,
so back to you,
great.
Anton.
Thanks, Anton.
Well, thank you very much, Suzanne, and thank you, of course, to Niamh. We mentioned earlier on that we were looking at that we had selections of some of the artwork done by students in the focus groups, and as Suzanne said, the level of the degree to which young people are informed is evident in how they use art to express their reflections on AI. So there's a couple of them. We'll stitch others through as we go through the day. Now, I mentioned that we would have experts joining us. One of those experts is one of the leading people in Ireland in respect of AI and the implications of AI. She is from UCD and the AI Council of Ireland. She's going to be talking about AI ethics and trustworthy AI. And she's also going to help us understand the future of responsible artificial intelligence usage for children and what that's likely to look like. Dr. Susan Levy is going to be joining us from Italy. If you have any questions, you can direct them to onlinesafety@barnardos.ie, or obviously put them into the YouTube comments. In the meantime, here's Susan.
Hi everyone. I'm really delighted to be here today to present. And can I say, just following on from what I've heard, I really, really appreciate the work that's been done, and I think it's so important. I'm here, like Anton said, in Italy at one of a conference about recommender systems. So that's about the algorithms that send all of us, including children, all the content they might consume online. And I can say children's voices, they aren't heard, and they need to be heard. So I guess I'll give an overview of what's going on, because I think there's hope, and I think this will change. So, if we look at the context, we're in at the moment, there's several cases against the likes of TikTok and Instagram, and I guess there are such opportunities with AI, like generative AI, and it is fun, and it is, but there are risks. So what are those risks? What's it saying? So in the US, there's just last week or two, there's a case against TikTok, claiming that it damaged youth mental health from kind of the content it sent out. CyberSafe Kids did a fantastic report on this as well, on just the kind of harms that young people in particular, come across online. The Surgeon General in the US, issued kind of warnings about the use of AI, and also probably this audience will be well aware of the calls for bans of phones in schools, and also in America, some calls for bans for young kids on social media platforms. So we have kind of people seeing the consequences, and this is very much what motivates my work, I suppose, and my view on this is we all have personal experiences. Probably we've seen, young people maybe come across harmful content, or we wonder they have mental health issues, and we wonder is it because of what they're seeing online, and maybe all of us use our phones so much. We see that addictive nature of people and phones, and we question what role the AI algorithms are having in it. The DCU did brilliant research looking at TikTok and how if you set up an account and you're a young boy, how quickly the algorithms will send kind of like the Andrew Tate kind of content, kind of toxic views of masculinity to boys at a very vulnerable age where they're developing their views of masculinity. And for me, worrying, this amazing report by the Financial Times shows how there's a gender gap in political ideology. So girls, and especially young women, increasingly are getting more liberal in their views, and boys seem to be showing that they're getting more conservative. And we have to, so people are questioning the roles of recommender algorithms. It's active, like what AI is responsible for what people see online, what news they see, because of the recommender algorithms, and we have to question that. So I want to tell you about what's happening. There's an awful lot happening because governments are acting. There's a lot of political polarization that we see. These kind of societal level changes are happening. So governments are acting. We have the Irish Online Safety Code, the Commission of Man just launched back in May. The UK is a world leader in the online safety legislation they brought in, and that influenced California's online safety bill that they just brought in last month. So this is all very new. And the European Commission has launched you might have heard, the Digital Services Act. Now, I want to separate those two. So the online safety bills, they look at this kind of content that young kids are getting and going, okay, we need to take all this harmful stuff off. The Digital Services Act is a world leader, really, in their ambition to regulate the platforms themselves. It looks at the algorithms. So I wanted to focus on that because I think it's really important to take off the content, but also it's important to question how the AI algorithms work. Okay, so I'll talk about our project that we're doing at the moment called RTI, and we've talked to so many people about this, including teenagers and parents of teenagers, about what they're seeing, what questions they have, social science researchers, as well as government policymakers and NGOs, as well as experts in AI and youth mental health. So the Digital Services Act is addressing this in two ways. People talk about the AI Act. You might have heard this new kind of AI legislation. That will affect AI for sure. But the one that will affect people's lives is the Digital Services Act, and affect children's lives is the Digital Services Act, because these kind of what's called recommender algorithms are the most widely used AI systems in the world and the most impactful. So when you have algorithms, someone might, get up and, if over breakfast or whatever, they're looking at the news, it's recommender algorithms say, okay, what kind of news are they interested in this morning? Let's send them that. So how that, there's a less and less of a shared reality. It's very, very personalized. So, and for children, if they look at YouTube Kids, it's an algorithm that's deciding, okay, what kind of cartoons do they want? What kind of nursery rhymes? And talking about generative AI, often those cartoons can be AI generated. So from beginning to end, I've seen cases where there's no human involved in the kind of cartoons, young kids, the nursery rhymes they might look at. And I think we got to question that, right? There's potentially no oversight. So the Digital Services Act aims to address this. right? Two ways. One, through auditing. So it's a whole new industry, a whole new industry in AI auditing. So auditors will have full access and they can go in, and their job is to assess these platforms for what's called systemic risk. Now, all that is to be defined. What an audit means, what risk means, is all really very much evolving. And it's in the hands of people who are going to implement it, the auditors themselves and the tech companies, to really make sure this is a success rather than a tick box exercise. But the other one I really, really want to draw your attention to is Article 40, researcher access. So until now, we all may have had suspicions. We've all seen issues with youth mental health. We've worried, is that because, of the content, it is making them self-conscious and giving them, questioning body image, that kind of thing. But until now, it's been really impossible to prove causation. It's impossible to get proof that this is happening. We don't really know. Why? Because the algorithms are closed, they're really complicated, and it's impossible for researchers to access or get data. This is going to change, okay? Article 40 says researchers, if you're a university, you can request access and you can do experiments, you can test what's going on. And also, even if you're not in a university, so any teachers who might be interested in getting kids to do projects, schools even, can access any data that's already public. So anything that's publicly accessible on Instagram, like those videos, you can access them and maybe do projects like so. And journalists can do this. It'll be wide open. So there's vetted researchers. If you're a university, you're independent and you're trusted, gets access to the data and information about the algorithms that's closed. And also, if you're not, you can so any NGOs, anyone, there's a whole new world available, and that's going to be implemented soon enough. By the end of the year, hopefully we'll see that. So I would get ideas and research ideas ready. There's also loads of information being published already that people, it's not yet paid attention to, but if you go to the European Commission, the companies have to publish all of these, what's called takedowns. So if someone finds something harmful and they notify it, the companies have to take it down and they have to publish why they took it down. So there's a lot of research projects yet to be done. So, and chiming in with the theme of this, the Digital Services Act also says that companies have to engage with users, and this includes children. It includes teenagers. More and more children use AI way more than adults, and until the Digital Services Act, it really hasn't been enshrined that their voices, their preferences, their needs need to be accounted for. And that will hopefully change. That the Digital Services Act says to tech companies that AI algorithms, as they've been developed, have to engage with users. And we're going to take that into consideration in our project we're building, which I'll talk about in a minute, very briefly. Is really, really important. So the work that a lot of people here are doing on engagement, on AI literacy is so, so important. And the EU, through the Digital Services Act, is really recognising that. So for my part, we're building a platform. And the idea is that social scientists, a broad range of researchers, will be able to use it and test these algorithms for research and auditing, and to see, okay, are they causing harm? And we can, one example, the lines are going up. That meant when we tested different algorithms, if someone watched some news that was biased, skewed one way or the other, they got more and more and more of the same. Okay, so what do we need? We need a coalition of cross-disciplinary researchers. So I'm really looking forward to new possibilities in access to data under the Digital Services Act, but it's not computer scientists alone who can address this. We need social scientists, NGOs, children themselves, teenagers, all involved for a new kind of data science. So thank you. That's my main message, and thank you for all your work.
Well, thank you, Susan. I mean, absolutely fascinating, and particularly fascinating about the fact that it is young people who find themselves more engaged with AI than adults do. So to continue this, therefore, without any young people involved would be a little bit sort of Hamlet without the prince. So we're going to involve two of the young people from the WebWise Youth Advisory Panel. With me, I have Daniel and Sharia, and we're going to talk a little bit about how AI affects their lives and how they interact with it. Guys, you're very welcome. Daniel, let me start with you. AI in your life, how do you use it? How do you interact with it?
I use like ChatGPT every day. I use it to basically I replaced Google search with it. I use it to ask random questions. I use it for studying, especially in school. I use it for a lot of coding problems I have because I'm interested in coding. So I guess it's nice to have an AI assistant who knows everything and able to fix all the problems there.
So if you discover a coding obstacle, you'll go to ChatGPT and ask it how to navigate around it?
If I can't figure it out myself, yeah, I'll go to ChatGPT and ask what's the problem here? Why is this not working? Or
And literally every day?
pretty much every day, yeah.
Wow. Sharia, what about you?
I'd encounter AI pretty much every day as well. So through social media, if you're going through something, you'd probably come across it like Meta AI. So that's a new thing recently. So I'd use Meta AI. I'd use ChatGPT. So get off a sample answer for an English essay, I don't know, about a poet. So getting that off, maybe generating a few maths problems for to study for a test. Or even I've started doing a BT Young Scientist project. So just to start the project, I'm coding in it. So the same thing as Daniel, if I wanted to get a code that's already there in the market. So if you wanted to get a zero knowledge proof code off somewhere, ChatGPT would be my place. So it's kind of ChatGPT will give it much easier because you don't have to go and gather information from different websites. Rather, it just compiles it for you and gives it to you straight away. So I think it is a nice replacement for Google.
So unfortunate that you're saying that in Google, but we'll set that to one side. The thing that Dr. Susan Levy was saying there then about that young people have much more engagement with AI than older people. Is that your view as well? Is that your experience that you would use AI, ChatGPT as case in point more than adults that you know?
I think I would say it's almost even, but I would agree that we'd use it a lot more because we'd use social media a lot more. We might not realize that we're using it every day, but I think it is a lot more common for us to go and use ChatGPT because we know that it's something that's relevant to us and that we can go and ask it anything and we'll get an answer, essentially. I know a lot of people, older people than us, they'd use it for getting different answers and resources to write an email because it's a busy world, so everyone wants to get things done quicker, and once you can get it done quicker, it's nicer.
Okay, well then, given the level of interaction that you both have with AI in various different forms, maybe Daniel, you might kick off and give us, where do you think there is potential for AI to be used more in learning, in schools' environment, making learning more fun, more interactive?
I think certain people might prefer to study or learn differently. I love reading and writing. That would be my go-to way to study. But Shreya, for example, could prefer pictures. And I think now that you can use generative AI to include multiple students on a level from a teacher's perspective, if you can't reach a certain student with reading and writing, you might be able to, with the help of an AI, get on another level with a student that might make learning more fun for them and make it easier. And I think now having access to AI for in a studying perspective, it gets it's a lot easier to fund. I feel it's more personal because it's catered towards what you're studying, and it's.
But that's interesting. So you have a student. If you're a teacher and you know, well, this student prefers visual learning, I can take what is otherwise text and get a generative AI to give me a storyboard of it. And
absolutely, yeah. I've seen it happen before in my classrooms recently, and I think it's a great way to get people involved or even curious about the subject. some people might just not have an interest until it's something that picks up to them.
Let me ask you the same question. Possible ways that AI could make learning more fun, more interactive?
I think it can make like learning more fun in the way that it makes, for us, like we're used to using technology for our studies. I know a lot of people, like if you're writing, you'd probably like type, or you could write, like Daniel was saying that he prefers writing and reading. So like I know a lot of friends who'd prefer writing and reading, but at the same time, if they have a question about something, they'd go onto the internet. So I think making learning and interacting with AI more in the education system would be that teachers are creating quizzes for us, maybe to answer, like prepare for a test. Or it could also help like people who are autistic or who are going through a disability and they need help in it. Because I know like a few friends who struggle sometimes to get things through a bit quicker. So I know like there are AI websites out there that create summary notes for you based off a voice recording. So so if they record a teacher's recording, or if the teacher gives them a recording, they could actually go and have their summary notes written for them and they could print them out. So I think in that sense, AI is really nice for students. And if teachers encourage it themselves, like I know my maths teacher would encourage that if you don't have any questions left in a textbook or on exam papers, go and ask ChatGPT to generate a few questions for you, and then it makes your life easier to study. So I think encouraging it and mentioning it in schools is rather better than kind of avoiding it, because it is there. It's there for everyone to use. So I think making use of it is better than avoiding it anyhow. So.
Well, this is interesting because that's one of the things that emerged in the focus groups was how much young people are interacting with AI and with generative AI, and the degree to which it's being used in creative expression. Give us a sense from yourself, first of all, Daniel. Do you use AI to help with creativity? Do you use it to create?
Absolutely, yeah. For even like I remember there was a ChatGPT update, I think it was 4.0, and it had the ability to transfer my drawings, like website drawings, into straight code. And I thought that was amazing because I could actually just come up with a design myself and then have it there within a second. And even for like asking for, like, for example, if you're posting something online, you need like a caption, sorry, and you want to have something good, like there's no harm going to ChatGPT asking, hey, can you give me 5 Instagram captions based off my post?
What about you, Shri?
I think it is part of my like creative experience, like on a day-to-day basis. Like I'd be like a PR kind of person for a few organizations that I work with on a day-to-day basis. And like if, like Daniel was saying, to make like a caption or to make a poster or to generate a picture. So like there are loads of websites online. So like for my art CBA for the junior cert, I took a reference off an AI generative picture website. So I asked it to generate a picture of somebody walking in New York City and it's sunny and it's raining at the same time. So like you wouldn't get a picture like that off the internet, but you could get it off AI. So kind of using it for different art projects and then drawing something, or even like creating videos to post on like an Instagram website. I know a lot of people who do that. So they'd like ask, I don't know, Canva. So they'd have a feature and they'd ask, oh, can you generate a video with one quote, this music, this picture in the background, to post on social media, and make 50 of them that are very similar, and then it'd do that for you. So I think it's a really nice way to kind of just make life easier, essentially. But yeah, it's always there.
Given the level of obvious expertise the two of you have and level of interaction that you've already have, it is still it is a vastly growing area in terms of the capacity of AI, of almost exponential growth. In that context, what are the things that you see as opportunities? What are the things that worry you about the future of AI?
I think it definitely like for example, ChatGPT getting more knowledge, being able to answer more questions, becoming smarter almost in a sense, is great for more daily tasks or more problematic equations in like school or whatever. It's growing so much at such a rate that is almost incomprehensible, that you think you kind of have to stay on top of it all the time to keep up with everything. And it is ever learning, especially with like memory updates now. So it kind of it's becoming intertwined with life, and that's I'm actually very excited for that, because I think it'll be super cool to have something that can just generate like a day-to-day plan based off what I do. One of the concerns I'd have is, and I've seen it happen recently, with models. So like, for example, like a new model like ChatGPT, like a new AI that's come out, could be trained off wrong information and incorrect data, and then you have people going to use that, and then they're coming out with a different output, and it's all like fake news, for example. That's one thing I think needs to be very controlled, to make sure everything's trained off the same like curriculum almost, to make sure everything
and that the biases are ironed out in that process.
You don't want a biased source, even like, or trying to generate something for like even school related. You don't want to come out wrong.
Same question to you, Shreya. Things that you see as opportunities, things that you're excited about, things that you're worried about.
I think the opportunities is that it's all personalized to you. So once you have something that's clear and it doesn't have, so you'd have data that's running essentially the generative AI, but at the end of the day, it does something for you and just for you. So it could work just for you and it might not work for somebody else. So it would be really exciting to see it kind of taking control of things that people are not able to do. So like, let's say in like a third grade country in the world, it could help like a health system work essentially. So if there's a like lack of courses for people in third grade countries to like run healthcare, it could train them, it could do something that maybe no human has been able to do before. So I think that's really exciting to see that it could make a difference in the world essentially. At the same time, the concern is that I hope nobody misuses it in the future, because if it's going to grow at the exponential growth it's growing now, there's a lot of gap and like space for a lot of misusage as well for AI. So there could be the idea of, you know, we can go and we can like steal a lot of data off something, or we could go and we could generate this new bot that could do something that could harm everyone. Because at the end of the day, I think the rate that it's growing at, we'll have people who are running on AI rather than humans that are doing their work as well. So I think looking very future focused, there's a lot of like advantages and disadvantages to it at the same time. So yeah.
Shreya, thank you very much. Daniel, likewise. And Daniel, you're going to come back for our panel discussion in a while, aren't you? Guys, much appreciated. By the way, if there's any questions that you have emanating out of that, you can, of course, send them in to onlinesafety@barnardos.ie, or you can leave them as a comment on YouTube. If you don't have any questions, you can go to a generative AI and ask it to produce 5 or 6 for you and throw them onto the site. On screen, we're going to show you again some of the art from the participants in the focus groups. They were asked to produce art. They were also asked to produce phrases, sentences, thoughts around what is good or bad about AI, and you can see some of the kind of reaction there. Can help you with homework, studies and so forth. Now, we're back to another expert, in this instance a man who is hands-on when it comes to AI, because he is one of the leaders in the industry. He is from where we are today, which is Google. Please welcome Ryan Mead.
Thanks, Anton. Good morning. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Welcome to Google, and we're delighted to once again be hosting Barnardos Plugged In Switched Off event, as we have done for many years now, dating back to when we first started to work with Barnardos with a Google.org grant of €1 million in 2019. And what Barnardos have done with that funding over the recent years has been nothing short of incredible. They've reached 90,000 Irish children with their online safety programme workshops in the past 5 years. And in this age of AI, which is the topic of today, we're delighted to continue that support with a new grant this year to allow them to develop that online safety programme in collaboration with Media Literacy Ireland and WebWise to help young people stay safe in the AI age. So today we are talking all about AI, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how we think about empowering the next generation for an AI-enabled world. I'm going to talk a little bit about Google's approach to AI, how we develop it, how we build it. Talk a little bit about our framework we use to keep people, particularly young people, safe online, and then take you through a quick case study about how that comes into practice when we develop a generative AI tool such as Gemini. So for years, AI has been quietly making the tools we use every day, like search engines, smartphones, safer and more helpful. But now generative AI tools are coming available, and these can help us in everyday tasks, save us time and spark creativity. We're also seeing AI drive incredible progress on complex challenges in science and medicine. So we recognize that the pace of change is rapid and the stakes are high. That's why Google's approach to developing and deploying AI is deliberate, thoughtful, and collaborative. Now, I mentioned already that AI has been quietly working in the background to make some of the everyday tools more helpful. And I just on this slide provided a couple of examples of how Google has been building AI into tools you may use already. At the top there's Google Translate. And thanks to AI, Google Translate can now support 133 languages around the world. In the middle, you'll see Magic Eraser. This is a powerful AI photo editing capability built into Pixel phones and cameras. Google Lens, one of my favorite tools. You can point your phone at an image of a plant, for example, and the AI will help you identify what species it is or translate the image of a sign if you're traveling. And then just in your everyday work, Smart Compose, which we launched back in 2018, has been helping people be more productive with email. So these are just sort of very simple examples of how AI has been already making our tools more helpful. At the sort of bleeding edge or cutting edge then, there's obviously a lot of extreme excitement around what's happening in science and healthcare. I'm just highlighting AlphaFold here because in the last few years we've seen millions of researchers globally using AlphaFold to make discoveries on things like vaccines, cancer treatments, malaria, biorenewable materials. And just last week, two of, I suppose I can call them my colleagues because they work at Google, DeepMind, were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for this technology. So we're excited about AI, but we have a kind of framework we think about how we approach developing AI tools. And we talk about developing it boldly, responsibly, and together. So we want to be bold because we're optimistic. We want to pursue the opportunities which are extraordinary and can have real impacts on people's lives. But we want to be responsible, build it in a way that's safe, mitigating risks while still pursuing the benefits. And then I suppose relevant to the theme of today, we want to do it together. So we want to consult with experts, governments, policymakers, civil society groups to advance smart ideas about how we work together to keep people take advantage of the opportunities in a safe way. So what are these opportunities? Well, I mean, we've already heard from some amazing young people, but we also asked a few people on a video here about what they think of the opportunities for AI and new technology. So I'd like to just play that short video now to hear from them.
What do you want to see in the future?
How do you think technology will make this world better?
How would you see yourself in 20 years?
In 20 years, I see myself writing movies in Hollywood.
Maybe being a dentist, having my own family.
I'd want like unlimited money for everyone.
Electric Heelys would be cool.
I wish for like some AI sites to help make taking down notes more fun and engaging.
I would like there to be a cleaning machine around like every street or city.
I want people to have disabilities to get more help and care. I would make a machine that could make any food and we could put it in those starving countries.
In the future, really dangerous jobs like fishing, for example, I think they should be mostly controlled by robots.
Like technology that can put out fires.
You know, ambulances, like what if you make them flying?
I would make a machine that could help you travel back in time.
That's nice. So maybe you could bring back like the ones you loved.
I want a world where technology can help make medicine and cure diseases.
In the future, I'd like to see equal access to housing for everyone.
better transportation, like if everything was free so you could go anywhere like anytime.
Help elder people.
More advanced space exploration.
Beat climate change.
In the future, I want everyone to get a free education and have equal chances as everyone else.
So as you can see, young people are excited about the opportunities, and we heard that already today here in the studio. But focusing on young people, at Google, we recognize we have a responsibility to protect and build for our youngest users. We have a heightened social responsibility when it comes to kids and teens, to protect them and provide them with great online experiences. And we know that kids are different and need various supports as they age and develop. So I just want to talk a little bit about how we think about our responsibility and the framework we apply, which is based on the best interest of the child. The framework is, the pillars of the framework are everything we do for kids, teens and families is built to protect, designed to respect and created to empower. And what do we mean by those pillars? Under protect, that's about providing default protections for young people that are appropriate to their age of development in terms of protecting them from harmful content or protecting their data. Designed to respect is about offering kids and their families choice, flexibility and control so they can decide what works best for them. And that's through tools like Family Link that allows families to work about what are the best ground rules to apply. But almost as important is created to empower, allowing kids to have age-appropriate experiences so they can safely explore, grow and play online. So that's the overall framework that we apply. I'm just going to talk in the remaining time a little bit about how we've applied that to developing Gemini for teens. So Gemini, as I hope you know, is our app based on our latest large language model, a very powerful tool. It's been available for adults since last year, but just this year we launched globally an experience for teens, including in Ireland. So how do we go about bringing it to teens? First of all, we rely on some research, and we actually funded this research from the Family Online Safety Institute, which produced some really interesting findings, which has informed our approach. You can see them there on the slides, but I suppose one thing I'd call out is that teens in this survey said that they believe their parents know more about generative AI than they do, which is a surprising finding to us because we usually think that young people feel they know more about technology than their parents. And I think actually from the young people we heard today, I think they definitely know more about this technology than most of us. So we might have to revisit this research, but I think that was a very interesting finding. We've also worked with child development experts to build the best policy protections into our products. This has resulted in us rolling this technology out a little bit more slowly for teens than others, but we think that's appropriate to take a deliberative approach here. And some functions that might be available to adults are not yet available for teens, including, for example, image generation. And that's all based on our assessment of the overall risks around this product. So this slide summarizes a whole series of specific measures that we've built into the product based on that research and based on that assessment of what's best for to protect the interests of the child. I'll just call out a few things. For example, clear teen-friendly language in our transparency and privacy controls, extra transparency notices so that make sure that kids can understand what may be done with their data and when it's appropriate to share. And also in terms of using the product, we have teen-friendly conversation starters, so engaging content to sort of give teens a better reason to engage with the product. And then I'll show you what that looks like in the product itself, working from left to right. This is the Gemini app, which you can get on your phone, and you can interact. You can also interact on the web with Gemini. So on the left there, you can see reminders about how the product and review process work. And this is important for transparency and to help teens understand how their data might be used. As Gemini is a product in development, we do use human reviewers to judge how well it's working. And it's important for teens to understand that sensitive data they may put in may be seen by a human reviewer, and we want to make that available in the app. The FAQs in the middle there have all been tested for teen comprehension, so we're not presenting teens with like a wall of text that they can't hope to make sense of. And then on the right-hand side, a feature of Gemini is that we have tools to double-check information. And we think that's very important, and I'll get to some of the reasons why in a minute. It's important that people understand Gemini can produce really useful, engaging content, but it's important to also have the ability to use Google and other tools to double check, find the source of that information, and judge whether you think it's reliable to use in whatever context. So the final thing I'll mention is that, whatever about how the product is presented and how the product is built, we think it's important for teens and others when they're getting to grips with generative AI to have an awareness of the must-knows around generative AI as a technology. So we've built this into the onboarding process for Gemini for Teens. It's a short video which explains 5 things you should know before getting involved with generative AI, and I'll play that for you now.
Ready to get started with generative AI? Here are 5 must-knows. AI is a machine learning model, not a human. AI might provide a response that seems so unique you may wonder if it's human. But AI can't think for itself or feel emotions. It's just great at picking up patterns, known as training. Use AI to empower, assist, and inspire you. AI can help you kickstart the creative process, but it's not there to do the work for you. That's your role as the creator. AI can and will make mistakes. Since generative AI is a work in progress, it may make things up, known as a hallucination. For example, it may predict who the top gymnast in 2035 will be, even though this information isn't available yet. Critically evaluate responses. Always check information that's presented as fact. When in doubt, double check it with Google Search. Watch this space as generative AI evolves. Generative AI is a quickly evolving technology, which is why it's critical that it's developed and used responsibly. Learn more at ai.google.
Sorry. So I hope that video was useful. I'm going to leave you with this slide, which shows the 5 key takeaways that we call out in that video. And I would just maybe highlight the very last one there. Watch this space as generative AI evolves. I think what we've heard today and what we'll hear later, this is a quickly evolving space. At Google, we're trying to build boldly, responsibly, and together. And I just want to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak about it today. Thank you.
Very interesting, Ryan. Thank you very much. Yeah, as fast as the technology is developing, the implementation of it is developing. We're going to look at it now in schools and educational context. Before that, just another quick glance at some of the artwork that has been done by young people in response to the question about the sort of the positives and negatives about AI. What is so good about AI? Obviously, they're the concern that it could take over the world. Slightly down the other end of the spectrum, it could get annoying. So there's a definite threat from either of those, the former probably being a little worse than the latter. We're going to look at the implications of AI and how it's currently being used in an educational context and in schools. I'm joined by 2 people well placed to discuss this. Bobby Kenny, who's principal of Scoil Mhuire in Rosslare in Wexford, and Patrick Hickey, who is both a teacher and a teacher trainer from Boherbue Comprehensive School in Cork. Gents, you're both very welcome. Let us start then with the use of AI in school. I think to some extent there would be a general feeling that in Patrick's context, in secondary, it's probably fairly common. I wonder, do people see it as being already implemented in primary? What are you seeing, Patrick?
Anton, we're not seeing it as much from pupils in primary school. Just talking to Patrick, he's telling me it's a bit like the Wild West.
Sorry, Bobby, I called you Patrick.
Patrick's telling me it's like the Wild West in secondary a bit, like, because obviously the pupils are using it at home and more tasks homework-wise, a lot more. But in Scoil Mhuire, Rosslare, and in most other primary schools, we're taking a cautious and considered approach to it. We're waiting maybe from our partners in IDEA and the Department of Education to come to us with maybe evidence-based research to show us maybe what we should be implementing, because as I said, there's lots of things out there and you want to know that, it's evidence-based, whatever you are implementing. But we are using it as a staff now. I suppose we've been early adopters to the technology as a Google school, Google for Education over the last number of years. So we're well placed maybe to have things like Google Gemini, as was spoken about there. We're adapting that as a staff. A lot of the staff who are interested in it are now using it. And me personally, as a principal, like the administrative burden with principals now, it's growing and growing with emails and tasks and circulars to read, all these type of things. So if we use the technology that's there...
Can you not use generative AI to answer an email in a way that placates parent and makes them leave for the next while?
Well, it can. I'm sure it can, yeah. There's many ways it can be used, but it can certainly help you with the tone of many things. But just in deciphering the paperwork and all that's coming on, to help you timetabling, to help you with plans going forward. Like, you know, it's a great tool that we can use.
Have you got a sense of how, because obviously with all of it there is that thing of the speed of development, have you got any sense of where it's heading? Can you see 5 years down the track, 6 years down the track, AI being the norm in primary classrooms?
I don't know if it's going to be the norm. I think just UNESCO recently brought an AI guideline framework, which the centre of it really is that the teacher has to be at the centre of the learning no matter what. So that's important. But in 5 years' time, I don't think any of us can really see where it's going, but we do know that AI is going to be with us then, as it is now, whether we like it or not. So I can see us, like, you know, literacy lessons becoming like about prompt engineering, because obviously the prompts that you use in Google, Gemini, ChatGPT are only as good as the person who's putting the prompts in. So that could be a big part of lessons going forward. Certainly things like Khan Academy, which a lot of schools have been using for numeracy, they're bringing out Khan Amigo. Now, a lot of classes have a big divide in maths, like you have your high achievers, high ability learners, and you have your children that need a little bit more help. So the likes of that can offer more personalised learning, which is only beneficial with the teacher at the heart of it, obviously.
Patrick, take us to the Wild West then, the secondary experience.
The Wild West. Well, I suppose, yes, I teach in a secondary school, history and English teacher. And ahead of today now, I just did a little straw poll of my second years, and I asked them, so like they know I use AI, I'm transparent about it, and I just turned it over to them now and said, how many of you are using AI? And they were a bit coy and cautious at first, and then I said, come on, you know I use it, so come on. So I think out of a class of 24, 22 were using AI. And then we broke it down and I said, what AIs are you using? And 3 said ChatGPT and 21 said my AI, the Snapchat version. And I'm familiar with both, right? And I was just curious to know now, like their critical thinking regarding it, you know, particularly the Snapchat version of it. Because I don't know, do you know, Anton, like my AI was just put on their phones, you know, about 18 months ago, became part and parcel of their social media. So we have a generation of young people, if they're on Snapchat, they have my AI. And I've used it, and look, like any AI, it can make mistakes, it can hallucinate, it can also be very helpful. And they said in that regard, when it came to definitions, or maybe if something came up in a class, something like onomatopoeia or something, you know, along those lines, they found it very helpful to create summaries. And then I said, what about homework? Not as good. And I was so relieved.
Well, they would say that to their teacher, wouldn't they? Well, they're hardly going to say, I've been filing my homework for the last 3 months, made
I suppose I was relieved because, like, it's been a strategy of mine since AI has come out, you know, to be transparent, to show them what it is, what it's very good at, and what it isn't very good at. You know,
that's interesting, because I've seen teachers write about it and say that they find themselves being AI police people, that they spend their time trying to see, did the student actually write this, or is it generated? You haven't had that experience at all?
Of course I have, right? Like students, like if they're coming from the wrong place, like they don't have our expertise, our domain knowledge. If you write an essay, it'll write an essay. You know, they won't question the quality of it unless that issue is brought up in class. And I do bring it up, you know, and they are critically thinking. Well, the group I have, because they have heard me talk about, you know, never trust it. It does hallucinate, remember? And I reminded them, the time we asked ChatGPT to pick 32 women from each of the 32 counties, Cillian Murphy was from County Cork. Where did that come from? I guess the AI thought Cillian was a woman's name. And by the way, Chris O'Dowd is from Roscommon.
At least I got the geography right in both.
Yeah. Now, but in that regard, like when AI makes a mistake like that, I pounce on it, right? I never praise it too heavily, even though in the back of my head I might be saying, God, it's very handy for the things Bobby was talking about, the admin side of teaching. But they need to know that. They are using it, but they are seriously lacking in AI literacy.
If AI literacy is an issue for students, what about parents, Bobby? When parents talk to you about AI, do they raise concerns? Is it something at the forefront of their thinking, or are they generationally separate?
I think it's just another part of the online world, really. Like, you know, there's the like, you know, you can't protect them from it. It's here with us, and parents, and in one way, parents don't want their kids to fall behind when it comes to these type of things either. So we have to be cognizant of that. But what I always tell them, like, you know, it's far better to render children competent digital citizens than it is to protect them from every conceivable threat. And protecting them from it and shielding them from it is not the way forward on this. As Patrick said, we have to teach them about the pitfalls, the dangers and the opportunities that are here with it. And there's plenty of opportunities, but the Barnardos evidence that came out has come out today is that the kids don't have an understanding, but the parents don't either. And I think overall they don't. And I think schools are in an excellent position to maybe bring everyone along into learning in that way.
The other thing, of course, Patrick, in this, we've talked a lot about generative AI, but AI in terms of the algorithms that are used to provide information to people. If you look at what Susan Levy was saying about even the gender split and what the algorithms are providing to boys and girls, to what extent do you think parents and students have an understanding of how to interpret the information that AI algorithms are presenting to them?
I think, like, there are different digital divides. You know, and I currently I think there is another digital divide. You know, you talk about access to devices and finance for different AIs. You know, but I suppose it has to be said. You know, when it came to social media, you know, kids did their own thing, and kind of parents kind of stuck to Facebook, right? And I see the same thing happening now at the moment. You know, and I go back to Snapchat, which is the most popular AI among the people I teach anyway. You know, not many parents are on Snapchat. Not many parents know my AI is there. And certainly when I said it to my second years, you know, at the time we had a parent-teacher meeting coming up, and I wasn't going to do it, but just to test the waters, should I mention that my AI on Snapchat? And they go, no, if you don't mind, no. Right? They know it anyway, you know, this kind of thing. But there is that divide there. I think parents are somewhat out of the loop. Teenagers are in the loop to a degree. But again, critical thinking, you know, I suppose in the age we live in where it's swipe, that's kind of interesting. No, it isn't. Swipe again. There's very little critical thinking there. And that is a big issue with AI that needs to be addressed.
Wrap this together then for me, and I give the final word to you, Bobby. From that sort of troika of schools, of teachers, of parents, and when you include in then, I suppose, beyond that, the students and the wider education system, how do you get all that to work together to find the best opportunities and avoid the pitfalls?
Yeah, well, parents, we all have to work together. I think bring them in and doing it with evidence-based programs like, you know, the UNESCO guidelines. We need a teacher-centred approach. But like the end goal from all of this really is, we look at it from a teaching perspective. Is it going to improve teaching and learning? And if the answer is yes, you're going to use more of it. So I think from parents' point of view, I'd be asking parents maybe to understand what the technology is, to maybe get a grasp of it themselves. And secondly, maybe talk to their children about what they're using. Like, kids have to be monitored online. And there's vast benefits to this though, like as Daniel said earlier, like, you know, about personalised learning. Each child learns in different ways, and that's true. And we can harness this by working together, but it has to be evidence-based and it has to come soon enough from the Department of Education, because we need a basic understanding of this, and we need to be giving the children the basic understanding of this before they go to secondary, the Wild West.
And of course, the point that Patrick made so well, it's not just an understanding of the technology broadly, it's the technology with which they are interacting. It's whichever app or whichever program is the one that they're most...
But Angela, I suppose it's very hard for teachers to engage with this if they don't understand what AI is, primarily, right. And like I said, what it's good at and what it can't do, you know. So like Bobby said, like training, guidelines, it is absolutely vital, and teachers are crying out for it.
It's a fascinating period, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it impacts over the coming years. Guys, thank you very much. That is, of course, Bobby and Patrick, themselves experts, obviously. Bobby's background in primary, Patrick's in secondary. And I think, guys, are you going to be coming back to join us for the panel later on? You are. Brilliant. Look forward to that. So if there's any questions that you have for the guys, if you fling them in, we'll include them in the panel discussion. We'll have a look at some of the artwork. We've been stitching this through as we've been talking. This is reflections from young people for some of the focus groups on what is good or bad about AI, how it is used to catfish and manipulate, and its ability to create fake photos. That's in the category of not so good, I assume, and obviously a lot of others in the category of good, and we'll show you some more of those as we go on. Where we are heading now is to hear from a representative of IDGE. IDGE, of course, is the new name for the Support Service for Teachers and School Leaders. It's funded by the Department of Education, and we're going to be hearing from Anthony Kilcoyne, who is Divisional Director of Digital Technologies with IDGE.
Good morning, everyone. What a real privilege it is to be part of this wonderful event here today. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there in person, but I'm delighted to provide this pre-recorded message for you all. Before I start, can I say what a true honour it is to be part of this event, as I'm astutely aware of the vital role that Barnardos plays in supporting children and families across the country. In the short time I have with you this morning, I want to give you a sense of who we are and what we do, some of the research and practice we've been into, and some of the supports we've been providing for schools. A little bit about myself and our organisation first. As you can see on the screen behind me, my name is Anthony Kilcoyne, and I'm the Divisional Director with responsibility for digital technology, and I work in a department-funded organisation called IDGE, which supports the professional learning needs of teachers and school leaders. Specifically in our area, we provide a broad range of supports to teachers and school leaders to optimise digital technologies in their practice and embed digital technologies in teaching, learning and assessment. Turning now to artificial intelligence and the topic of the day and its role in education, you'll have heard much already today about research and practice in the area. I'm also certain that you've been arrived here today, I should say, with much exposure to published information on the potential of AI to transform, but also the challenges it brings to the sector. We too, like you, are following those debates, eagerly following publications for the sector at a national and international level. However, I'm going to focus on some of the research that we've been close to and how it further informs our thinking of these opportunities and challenges in using AI in schools. In many ways, we were very lucky to be relatively immersed in these types of conversations before generative AI exploded and became the term du jour. As in 2021, we joined a 5-country consortium, including France, Italy, Slovenia and Luxembourg, to look at AI for and in teaching. It had the purpose of supporting post-primary school teachers in the use of AI in the classroom, in creating a professional learning pathway that promotes the meaningful and appropriate use of AI tools in the classroom, and it looked at addressing issues such as contextualization, acceptability, relevance, and usefulness in educational contexts. Across about 300 odd schools in these 5 countries, many teachers engage in professional learning conversations. And from this we learned a lot. We learned that national policies needed to emphasise the legal and ethical aspects of AI to strengthen confidence in its safety. We learned that countries felt that teachers needed a comprehensive view and knowledge of AI in education to remain curious, confident and critical. In France in particular, they talked of free access to digital resources that are GDPR compliant to support experimentation and teacher engagement. We learned of the need for greater teacher support through contextualised professional learning pathways to effectively use existing and future AI-powered tools for teacher learning. Alongside this, we also learned from Webwise, who are part of our division and supported as members of the Safer Internet Centre, an AI in education survey conducted from the Greek Safer Internet Centre across 5 countries. And you'll see there on the screen some of the risks that they identified, or this survey identified, in relation to students' use of artificial intelligence tools in the educational process. They spoke of the need for critical thinking to be embedded in our learning. They spoke of how students use their own data or share their personal data, but equally struggle to interpret or interrogate maybe biased data. They shared how the students tend to use synthetically developed data and pass it off as if it's authentic data, so it's unknown to themselves. And they spoke there about how students might develop emotional bonds with robots, perceiving these interactions as real social engagements. Alongside this research, we also gathered together over 70 post-primary teachers in Ireland to what we called an AI Thinking, where we tried to create a critical space for debate, discussion and sharing. We hosted provocative conversations triggered by prompts such as AI technology will close the digital divide, that AI technology should be used to assess student work, that perhaps AI technology in education is leading towards the devaluation of human interaction and critical thinking skills in the classroom. That relying on AI will make students too dependent on technology to solve problems. In response to what we've learned from these 3 pieces of research and the broader research, our journey begins and returns to a fundamental question. How do new technologies fit within the existing frameworks or architectures of our schools and our policy context? It's through engaging with what's familiar that we can trigger or transform our worldviews. So on the screen there, you'll see the vision for the digital strategy for schools to 2027, published in 2022. And it speaks about empowering schools to harness digital opportunities, aiming to develop those digitally competent, critically engaged and active learners who can fully participate as global citizens in a digital world. And the vision is our starting point for integrating artificial intelligence, I should say, into education. You'll see that the strategy is structured around 3 pillars, and the pillar 3 specifically talks about emerging issues, research and digital leadership. So even before ChatGPT and other Gen AI models became part of our vernacular, our strategy recognised the strengths and limitations of AI. It addresses the ethical considerations and risks, while also highlighting the benefits of AI-based educational tools such as customised learning and personalised feedback. It finishes by saying that it's crucial that children are given the opportunity to build familiarity and ease with these technologies from an early age. By doing so, we prepare them to navigate and thrive in an increasingly digital world. So over the past 12 months, we've been supporting teachers and schools with developing their understanding of AI, much the language of around demystifying AI for teachers. We provide webinars and engage in pilot activities to understand more about AI in this school context. But specifically, I'm going to mention 3 key pieces of work we've been involved with, and maybe these are the key takeaways for you from this short presentation. Firstly, in the spirit of supporting all practitioners to develop a shared understanding, we have developed a short online course, AI for Schools. This short introductory course provides teachers and school leaders with an understanding of AI, explains key terminology associated with AI, such as algorithms, machine learning and deep learning, and explores the considerations for schools in using AI in education, including potential benefits, limitations, and ethical considerations. Secondly, I draw your attention to the AI Hub for Schools on the IDGA Technology and Education website. This includes a video series with experts on the topic of AI in the Irish and European education context, information on that AI for T project that I spoke about earlier, and access to the AI webinar for post-primary teachers. It also provides access to the AI Hub on Webwise, which provides information on the impact of AI, the benefits, the limitations, its role in education, key considerations for schools, explainer videos which are so popular with teachers and parents alike, explain things like ChatGPT and Snapchat's My AI, and episodes relevant to the area from the Casting the Net podcast series. Finally, and maybe most importantly for the system, we've supported the digital policy section in the Department of Education in drafting guidance for schools on key understanding insights, key considerations for use, and how AI is situated in policy and practice, which will be published in due course. This guidance should provide a platform for engagement for all teachers in all schools. So before I conclude, can I thank you for inviting me to be part of the conversation here today. While that was quite a densely packed 10 minutes, I hope you've taken away some understanding of the work we do, how it is framed, and what our priorities are for the coming while. Again, it's been a privilege to be involved, and I wish all of Barnardos continued success today and with all other priorities.
Thank you very much, Anthony. We're going to have another look at some of the artwork and some of the responses, the written responses to the question about AI, well, what is good and what is bad. Again, it can get both annoying and mean. It can be used to catfish. Unfortunately, my eyesight isn't good enough to read you the other one, but I'm sure on the bigger screen at home you'll be able to see it. And a big thank you to all of the young people who produced artwork and who gave answers to those questions throughout. Now, we are joined by a person you haven't heard from until now, and a number of people that you have heard from before. So Cherie is back, Daniel is back, likewise Patrick, Bobby. The person that you haven't heard from so far is Richard Phillips, who is Barnardos' assistant director, and of course he is himself a parent. From what you've been hearing, Richard, give us your take on sort of the sense of the session so far, but also what you would want parents and teachers to know about AI and to have learned from what they've been hearing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Anton. Yeah, it's been a really interesting session so far, and the range of ways in which people engage with AI and the range of confidence. I mean, Daniel and Sharia have been amazing and have had a lot of, I want to go home and start trying out some of those ways of using AI myself, which is interesting because part of what we heard from young people around the country was variations in confidence, and a number of them saying that they would appreciate input from parents, from trusted adults, on how they even engage with AI or whether they should be engaging with AI. And for that reason, I, as a parent, feel this is a really good opportunity. It's a good moment to be involved with your children in how they engage with AI. I think for parents who are not very confident with techie, this is possibly a really good moment to re-engage with technology. I think AI is actually, in some respects, an easy way to get back involved. I'm a parent. I'm well used to the fact that my son is often streets ahead of me in terms of, the apps he's using, the way he's engaging with technology. And so I was encouraged to hear that actually parents' input would be appreciated. I don't think we need to be experts either. I think this is an opportunity for a shared experience, for deepening of a relationship while engaging with something we're learning about ourselves.
That goes to some extent overlaps with some of what Bobby was saying earlier on in terms of the sort of commitment and engagement with it. How best to go about that for parents, Bobby? If you're advising people and saying, okay, you want to get up to speed, how do they do it?
I'd say it's as simple as downloading ChatGPT or Google Gemini and start using it to figure out how to make a recipe at home or stuff like this. You can involve your children when doing that. Your kids will be more than well able, I'm sure, to get involved doing that as well. But yeah, it's about engaging with the technology. It can be scary and overwhelming, and I think teachers no more than anyone are finding that. And there's been a lot of changes with education over the last number of years, new curriculum and things like this. So the last thing I want to be doing as a principal is throwing a new change that we all have to start using AI in our planning or something like that. So I don't think parents, I think the approach needs to be festina lente, make haste slowly. So I'd say just gradually build up to it. Start gradually, talk to your kids and go from there.
Thanks very much for raising the tone with a bit of Latin. We're an hour and a half and no Latin until now. On that topic then, guys, from a parent's perspective, Sharia, if you were advising, what is it that you think young people, what is the competence that they want their parents to have, or the level of knowledge or insight around AI that they would like parents to have?
I think parents, like what a young person would want from a parent in terms of using AI would be that there's a sense of support, because at the end of the day, I think as the technology keeps on developing, I think there's this sense of driving the force of positively using it rather than avoiding it. As I said before, I think they'd want parents to kind of come and say, you're doing the right thing by using it, just adding a few restrictions as to how it's being used, because it can lead to like a lot of damage to somebody who's really young, who's vulnerable, and going through those few years of change. So I think the use of it being utilized well rather than not being utilized well would be the best way to guide
because to some extent it's going to be the reality of young people's lives anyway, and there's an onus on the parents to be familiar. Daniel, your own perspective on the same question, the kind of thing that you would want from, or that you would advise parents to do?
I'm very thankful that I have a dad who keeps up with every single AI related thing, so you would even know more than me when it comes to everything. But in like a general sense, I think parents should also stay up to top with everything that's coming out and how smart generative AI is using, or how smart it is getting, and to make sure that if they have children in schools, not to be using it in a bad way, as in make sure they're keeping up with their schoolwork. I'm very keen on that. I think it's very important that children are staying focused on their work and their studies and not bypassing their homework for a few days and then it comes to an exam and they're all stuck. So I'd say parents having support and an understanding of what it is would be a good starter, and then also realizing how bad it can be if you let yourself get very carefree with it. I think that's a very important thing.
On the topic of supports, earlier on, Patrick, you were talking about the level of supports needed for both the education system, schools and teachers. We heard a little bit from Anthony from IDGE from the kind of things that are coming down the track. Your reaction to that, is it good news for teachers?
It's certainly positive. But look, I suppose I'm like a lot of teachers, maybe particularly me, because I was an early adopter and I adapted to it very quickly. But like, we still have a situation, and this needs to be addressed immediately, where I think the vast majority of teachers have no idea what AI is, what it's capable of doing for them, you know, from like the great things it is doing for me in terms of admin, teaching lessons, giving feedback I've only dreamed of, you know. Like this young man here, I'm excited by this, you know.
And do you think that a lot of teachers think, oh, it's another thing, like another thing that gets loaded up on top of me, that they see it as extra work rather than opportunity?
Certainly, and we mentioned it earlier on, you know, like I suppose they saw it as a problem, you know, plagiarism. Teachers, we were going to become an endangered species. We're not, right? There has never been a more vital time to have an informed instructor or teacher in front of your students who knows what AI is, what its potential is, and what its pitfalls are. That's what we need in every single classroom.
We have a couple of questions that have been coming in. The first of them, I think, Patrick, you have just answered, but maybe you might want to add a second level to it, which is, do you think AI could ever fully replace teachers?
No, it's going to it's going to augment us, right? Absolutely. Like I said, in terms of feedback, like I cracked Leaving Cert history, right? They do a 1,500-word project. I do it in fifth year, and I don't mind telling you, Anton, I procrastinate when I have to read those first drafts, you know. But no, I can cut through those effectively. Now, I'm not taking any shortcuts. In actual fact, I'm giving feedback that I've only dreamt of. You know,
How many are in your class? How many are in your class?
This year now, I have a class of 12.
So that's 15,000 more. That's 18,000 words on Leaving Cert history. That's a lot of wading.
That is a lot of wading, and like I said, a lot of procrastination and kind of psyching myself up with coffee, you know, before I get down to it. But I suppose previously it would have taken me maybe an hour and 3/4 to read and give the feedback I wanted to give. Now with voice prompting. By the way, Anton, I never type, right? I'm constantly giving feedback into my phone, giving what I call rough notes to AI and asking it to translate that into positive, actionable feedback my students can use.
Maybe this one, Richard, you might take. The second question is, how do parents get the balance right when allowing children to use AI for creativity without impacting the child's ability to be creative on their own? Because I suspect anybody who has listened will have seen that thing of, do you blunt the innate creativity in a young person if they have the capacity to command generative AI to do the creative work?
Yeah. My son graduated this year, and as part of his work, he used AI as ideas generation, put in prompts, got imagery back that gave him ideas that then could be translated into other pictures, other, portrayals in other media. I think that describes a balance that is possibly about right. I mean, AI is great and it's a great tool. Using it with other things, using it as idea creation to then go into other media. I mean, AI is changing fast and it's growing fast anyway. I think any creative person likes to have their finger in a number of different pies. So, just trying to keep that balance of, yes, by all means use it, but also experiment with other.
Daniel, what about your view on that? Because there must be people who think, I would rather have a young person learn how to pick up a pen or brush and create a picture than learn how to give a prompt command. Are the two mutually exclusive, or do they both live hand in hand, or what's your thoughts?
I think, again, it's very important for a young person to know how to do these things. I think for me personally, there's no problem with, so I do business in school, right? And one of the times I'd have to be able to like create marketing and stuff, and I'm not the best drawer, but I would use a tool like ChatGPT to generate an image, or again, I'd feed in my doodles and see how that would turn out on a thing, and that's great, but I've never exactly enjoyed the idea of that's not exactly my work that I'm advertising, you know? As in, like, I've been to business competitions and I've had posters up, and like it's AI generated, and it would fit in with my business that if it was an AI business, but it's I think it is very important for a young person to know what exactly they're creating and know how to create it. And it's also the sense of like, you'd feel proud if that was your artwork up there compared to something you put in like you typed in a few words and you got an image back, and now you're just like, yeah, that's me, you know?
But when you're in a rush and need something, it's dead handy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Another thing, what about parents how can parents learn about using AI to benefit children with additional needs? And that goes to some of what you guys were saying earlier on about styles of learning. Have you seen any of that in your own experience, Sharia, of AI being used to help those with additional needs?
I think I have. Like, I know people who have ADHD, who have, mental disorders, which is absolutely fine. And I think teachers and principals can really, like, utilize it to their full potential to help them. I've seen classrooms that are for autistic children in schools, so they have their AAS classrooms in schools, and I've seen like SNAs trying to utilize it because some of those children might not know how to speak English. I've seen them use tools on their phones which they'll put their own voice in English, and then it'll transmit out a voice in the language that the child speaks. So it'll be useful for those kind of children, that it makes it easier to communicate things across to people. And I think for children, like, across schools, it's something to adapt to. Like, I know some schools are really high with the tech, and then some may not be as developed with tech. Like, some schools have Wi-Fi, some schools are like really slow with one Wi-Fi kind of thing. And I think having that support of, using it when it's needed for children like that would be amazing.
Well, that's, Patrick, that's the thing you might have a view on. We've talked, you sort of end up getting drawn towards generative AI whenever you talk about AI, but things like the Google Translate, the Gemini Translate products, or even the capacity to take kids on a nature walk and not have to know every tree yourself, but be able to identify, those kind of things have to supplement learning. Or Bobby, sorry, I should say. Those have to supplement learning, don't they?
Oh, sorry.
I have a massive urge to make Bobby Patrick. I don't know why.
But I was just when you were listing the different Google things, I have to give a mention to Notebook LM, the recently launched Google product. It is absolutely amazing, and we're talking here about students with additional needs, but like, it is like, basically you can upload any document, a PDF, maybe a copy and paste from whatever, put it into Google or Notebook LM, and it will turn it into notes, it'll turn it into a timeline, a breakdown for different reading abilities, and a podcast.
Now, Bobby, my apologies for trying to rechristen you all the way through this entire event. What about the non-generative AI and its use in the classroom and to inform different types of learning?
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of that as well, but that's the tech that's been coming down the line. And I suppose, as Sharia said, like, a lot of schools are well advanced when it comes to this, but a lot of schools aren't, and we have to be cognizant of that as well. But I think whatever schools are doing, I think the Department of Education needs to meet every school where they are and be cognizant of that. And just when you mentioned will AI replace the teacher, I'm just wondering, will the AI be able to do the teacher's yard duty as well?
Well, on that note, folks, we will wrap it up. I think we've had a fairly broad set of perspectives on AI and from AI practitioners. Big thank you to the team in Barnardos and to the team here in Google who have put in so much work into organising today and making today happen. There is an evaluation form. There's going to be a QR code on the screen. If you would share your views on today, it would be much appreciated, because it then goes to inform future plugged in and switched off events. A big thank you to everybody who was involved. Thank you to our panel here today, that of course being Richard and Daniel and Sharia and Patrick. And I have to say a particular thank you to Bobby for letting me rechristen him repeatedly throughout the event. That is pretty much it for us this morning. Hopefully we will see you next year. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.